So all of these things I'm going to talk about kind of fall into one of three places. I like to refer to them as a passive studying. Um, Passive studying being reading notes, watching videos, kind of engaging with the material, but not as deeply as you could. Right? It's kind of really putting a lot into it. And for that reason, I think a lot of people don't get a lot out either. Right? It's very easy to um, turn on a video and then get distracted. I'm sure most of you could agree with that you've put on a video at some point and zoned out through half of it, right? Um, Passive studying kind of enables you to do that. And for that reason, it's not as good as you could do, I think. Active studying is you're engaging with the material more, right? You are writing a quiz, a practice quiz. You are creating your own notes or your own flashcards or something along those lines, where you require some level of knowledge to approach that, right? To write a definition for a flashcard, yes, you could copy the definition from the book, but most of the time you're not going to want to write that. Maybe it's a paragraph. You're going to put it into your own words. And when you do put it into your own words, it requires you to have some level of understanding of it. And so for that reason, like that creation of things, whatever it is more active. Right? You are engaging with the material more. For that reason, usually a better method of studying. And then I kind of have advanced studying, where you're seeing the past, where what you're studying, the what ifs. What if I change this idea? How does it affect everything else? Most people and most courses aren't going to require kind of that advanced pushing the boundaries type of studying. But I thought I'd throw it in there just because it's that inquisitive nature of people, right? Of pushing the boundaries. So I got a quick little quiz. So let me refresh it. Where do you think you fall? What type of studying do you do? Passive, active, advanced? Should be in Zoom. Yeah, mostly, I mean, we'll see where it ends up at. Most are saying active studying, which is good, very good to hear. Give you another 10, 15 seconds if you haven't clicked the poll yet. And let's share it. So only 9 of you responded, but that's fine. 2/3 of you are saying you're active studiers. Great to hear, great to see. And then about a third are saying passive studiers. Honestly, from my experience, I'd say the majority are more passive. I'd say it's 60%, and then probably 35 to 40% being active studiers. So you're a cream of the crop bunch, right? Good group of students here. If you are that more passive studier, I would recommend usually to try and push yourself, right? Active studying does require more mental effort. It requires more engagement. It is harder, but usually you see better rewards for it. Right? And so it's going to be different depending on the course and all of that stuff. But usually the more effort you're putting in, the more you're seeing out. So as with anything in life. So a couple of methods now. So these are kind of our levels. Studying or just remembering and repeating. This is your tried and true regurgitation, your flashcards, repeating paragraph or a definition of something, and then at a later date as well, right? Watching videos, reading notes, more superficial, but still beneficial, right? It's very important. It's kind of your entry point. I think most people at some point have done this, obviously. This is kind of the entry to studying. There is definitely merit to it, right? And if you are repeating at a later date. If you do, let's say you have a test on Monday, if you studied Friday night for an hour, Saturday night for an hour, and then Sunday night for an hour, and you're remembering over Saturday and Sunday what you did on Friday, that kind of longer term retrieval of information is definitely important and is better. So cramming, not the best, but remembering, awesome. Some courses lend better to this than others. I'm more of a chem physics science person. It's kind of what I'm teaching at the moment and have in the past. So I'll throw bio under the bus. Bio lends really well to memorizing, right? There's lots of definitions. There's lots of kind of, do you know what happens here? And so for that reason, some courses are definitely more closely attuned to this. We have adapting your favorite strategies. This is going to differ depending on the individual course, but taking something and making your own. So you're being more active here, right? You're adapting the material that you have and making it something that works for you. So this could be making mnemonics for yourself. So a common math one is BEDMAS, brackets, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. Maybe you don't like that. Maybe you want to create something, some other mnemonic that works for you, right? Going through that process kind of reinforces all of that material. And then again, only taking what works. If a mnemonic is like, I don't need that, I don't remember it anyway, well, find something else that works for you, right? And if it works for you, it's going to be engaging. Not everyone's the same. There's no blanket statement for any of these. And there's no blanket statement for any of these courses or for like this being applied to any course. It's all different depending on the course and depending on the material. Quizzing yourself. This is my favorite, to be honest. It's what works for me and has in the past. Writing practice quizzes, practice tests, and going through that process actually lets you know what you don't know. Because if you just, I don't want to say just sit there and think of what you know, you don't know what you don't know until someone asks you that, right? And that's the purpose of these practice quizzes. If you run into a question, you're like, I no clue. Well, that's a good thing, right? Because you've now identified what you do need to know. It's not how to like get through it, but you've identified that you don't know it. And that's the purpose of studying, is to identify what you don't know and then proceed from there. And then as well, getting things wrong is okay, right? And that's how we learn. You learn from your mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, chances are you're probably not pushing yourself that much, right? And all of those are important things. And then as well, practicing your test skills. So general question for everyone. Do you think that you approach a multiple choice test with some sort of strategy? Do you do all the easy ones first? Do you skip questions? Do you eliminate answers? How do you approach it? Do you have strategy in your test taking? Them all in order and skip and go back if I'm super stuck. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, good. I think not like spending all your time if you do get stuck is important. Right? Skipping that question, being aware that I don't know this, I'm just going to skip it and leave it till the end, is an important strategy, right? And then as well, there's the fact that maybe there's 3 questions on a test on a topic. Maybe you don't know the first one, but you know the second two. Maybe you can pull some information from those later questions to answer that first one. Right? Lots of kind of tricks like that. Hopefully you develop over time, but they can be very useful. Way number 4, study groups. This is a little harder online. I know last year we had a study group session where once a week there was a open Zoom room in Miss Somerville's Zoom room where students would go and study. It's hard when you're not in the same physical space though, right? It's a little bit different to being in a school. And so it's a little bit harder. If you have friends that are in our school or in the same course in a different school, you can study. Even if they're not taking the same course, they can still quiz you. They can read questions off. Working with people helps better your understanding, right? Because if you're explaining it to someone, it helps reinforce your understanding of it. And likewise, if someone else has a better understanding of it, they can explain it to you. They can think about it in different ways, right? The way the teacher presents it might not work for you, but someone else might be able to explain it better, right? It's little nuances like that that are kind of going to change everything. So again, a little bit harder, but if you are the kind of person that wants to study socially, talk to your teacher. Maybe they'll set up a study group. I'd be more than willing to do that. I know, but I know for lots of people, it's hard to make that first step. Number 5, mixing it up. So this is the idea of not cramming, right? Spreading studying out over a longer period of time, doing something 3 consecutive nights instead of all at one night is important, right? Just kind of having that knowledge in your long-term memory rather than your short-term memory means that you're better able to retrieve it when you do come to that question on a test. I'm sure everyone has had that point in their life where you're sitting at a question on a test and you're like, I know this answer. I know it. I just can't come up with it. It's sitting right there. When you deal with stuff and it's over a longer period of time, it's easier to retrieve that piece of information. Right? And yeah, honestly, if you're mixing it up, if you're alternating courses that you study for, if you're stretching things out over a longer period, creates natural spacing. And our last one, figuring out what works best for you. So what works best for you is not going to be the same as what works best for me or someone else in your class, right? Some people love flashcards, right? They love the process of making them and going through them and studying them. For me, it doesn't work. I may as well not do it. For me, I prefer doing that, quizzing myself, writing a practice test. But like I say, flashcards work fantastic for lots of people. And so finding what works best for you in a given instance. So again, every course is a little bit different. Finding what works best for you is going to be the biggest part. And you can't just blanket study the same for everything, right? If you make flashcards for bio, flashcards for math, yeah, maybe they work. I don't know. I've never tried it. Maybe a little different. One final little statement. Do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, do better. And it's the whole purpose of studying, right? To improve yourself. You don't go into studying knowing everything. And as you kind of develop your understanding, as you develop your knowledge, you can be able to push yourself further, right? You go in, you might know 30, 40% of the material. Maybe after the first night of studying, 70%, 80%. To get to that last section, you keep on pushing, right? It's not all going to come at once. You're not going to be able to do all questions at once, right? At the beginning. That's what studying is there for. So that's going to be